Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
The 2026 Virginia Tech football roster is taking shape, so let's take a look at the offensive position groups on episode 469 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. We're recording on Wednesday, February 11th, 2026 from the Tech Solutions Studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. Today's episode is brought to you by Tyrus Homes. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Riley Klaus, and today I'm joined to my left by lead analyst and columnist Chris Coleman, and to my right, senior staff writer Andy Bitter. And producing the show behind the scenes, as always, is Mr. Nick Brown. Now, today we're going to dive into what all the rooms look like on the offensive side of the ball for Virginia Tech. Don't worry, we will have the defensive side of the ball coming to you very, very shortly. But when we start talking with this discussion, let's start with the premier position at quarterback, where there are 5 players currently on the roster, including the subtractions of Kyron Drones and Pop Watson, but the additions of Ethan Grunkemeyer and Bryce Baker from the transfer portal. And James Franklin, in a recent press conference, talked about that in an ideal world, you maybe would want some more spread between the classes, as they're all pretty much underclassmen. But is there maybe some upside to having some long-term stability with these guys?
Well, I don't think there's going to be any long-term stability.
There's no such thing as long-term stability in any. That's not unique to the Hokies. That is any quarterback room in the country these days.
I mean, if Grunkemeyer builds on his redshirt freshman year and becomes a good quarterback, then this job's not going to be open for like 3 more years. So we'll see what happens with the other guys. And if he were to get hurt this year, there's nobody with any experience behind him, and that's an issue. And Franklin brought that up. He said ideally you'd like to have, like, if you could have gotten like a Colin Schley in this year's portal class, that would have been ideal. But there's generally quarterbacks are in the portal for a reason, because they want a chance to play. There's probably not too many Schleys out there. I don't think you'll ever get your whole roster streamlined exactly like you want it, especially in year one. But for Virginia Tech this year, was the most important thing was that they find a quality starter, and I think they did that. I read an article, an Inside the Numbers article yesterday. Went every Virginia Tech starting quarterback dating back to 1993. Grunkemeyer has the highest single season completion percentage. His quarterback rating this past year was 12th highest. And that's like out of like 36 different quarterbacks. Granted, that's at a different school, of course, but I think you can look at that and see that the talent level is there, the potential is there. He's a good player already. I think Penn State coaches used him well last year. They understood his strengths and weaknesses and played to him, but that's what you expect when you have good coaches. You expect that. And I don't think Virginia Tech, maybe they haven't gotten that quite as much as they should have through the years. But and there's other things to look at it too. Like, if you look at some of Tech's quarterbacks through the years, like statistically, like Logan Thomas got worse. Maurice DeShazo got worse. Kyron Drones got worse. It wasn't that they were actually getting worse. It was the situations around them changed. Like Logan Thomas lost all his receivers and 5 starting offensive linemen off 2011,
and David Wilson and recruiting behind them. Recruiting to that point, Tech had slipped, so the players around him, the talent level dropped, and he suffered as a result. And Drones this past year, he was never great, but he's put in a situation in an offense that he wasn't really suited for, and with an offensive line that lost all 5 starters and couldn't pass block, and the results were predictable. So Virginia Tech's offensive line will have to be better, and they'll have to have consistency at receivers. But as far as Grunkemeyer himself goes, I think he's a very good add. Stylistically, this is a departure from what Tech's had in the past. They haven't really had just like a pocket guy like this since Brewer, probably.
Yeah, I would agree with it.
I mean, some of those guys were maybe more throwers than runners in the past, but they could still move pretty well. You look at Grunkemeyer's rushing stats last year; he didn't do that at all.
Negative rushing.
Yeah, when you add in all the sack yards and things like that. So I think it's
a different type of quarterback they'll have. The experience has to be concerning for the coaching staff because injuries do happen. Maybe you run the quarterback less, they might happen less, but injuries still happen in the course of football season. If something happens to their QB1 here, nobody else has taken a college snap before. I don't think Baker even got on the field at North Carolina. Hune just got into the program. Ryan and Brand. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out between those two. I mean, they have 3 guys in the redshirt freshman class and then a freshman behind them. So something's got to give. Those classes aren't going to stay the same, whether it's a position switch, whether it's a school switch. You just can't expect all those guys to stay in one place for as long. So I think this spring will be very interesting to see who separates themselves, who ingratiates themselves to the new coaching staff and, shows that they can be a long-term quarterback option here, and who, could they help the team in a different way? Could they look at their situation and go, I don't know, I wasn't recruited by this staff. Am I going to be in their future plans long term? So I think these are some of the questions we start to answer once we get to spring ball.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing there is the battle for the backup spot. Who's that going to be? If you look at that, 4 of those 5 players were actually recruited by Penn State. Obviously, Grunkemeyer was, Baker was, and now he's in Blacksburg. Recruited by this specific staff. Troy Hune obviously was committed to Penn State, but even Keldon Ryan, I think he was listed with a Penn State offer for whatever that's worth. They got an early quarterback commit in that class, so whether that offer was ever committable, we have no idea. But there's a lot of familiarity between, this new Virginia Tech staff and 4 of those 5 players, with A.J. Brand being kind of the odd man out as far as familiarity goes.
Is it Hoon or Hune?
I've been saying Hune.
Hune? Okay, I didn't know what it was. For clarity,
I haven't looked to see if Virginia Tech has put a pronunciation.
They haven't put a pronunciation key up yet,
Okay.
but so we can hear them say John Love.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I think we got that one.
Yeah. And as you both talked about, he maybe doesn't have in this room the experience level, but it's also going to be a different style likely than what fans have seen with drones and such over the last few years. So with that, do you expect kind of some growing pains in the first year of this switch, or will he still be able to keep the Hokies competitive in the ACC?
It's going to come down to how good the offensive line is and how productive his receivers can be. I think Grunkermeyer's talent level as a passer is going to be a step above, several steps above what Virginia Tech has had. I think the offensive coaching, I think a lot of what you saw this past year, I know Virginia Tech didn't hire Penn State's offensive coordinator, but they brought in their quarterbacks coach, who I think had plenty to do with that approach that they had with Grunkemeyer last year. And Ty Howell was there in the offensive meetings. He witnessed it. He has a very good idea of what they were doing. So I expect there's going to be plenty of familiarity with the offense itself. I think that will be a fairly easy transition for Grunkemeyer himself. The bigger transition will be for Virginia Tech's returning players. Those offensive linemen, but although it helps to retain Matt Moore as offensive line coach. But, I think Grunkemeyer is plenty talented in his own right. He's a good player. His success this year will be tied into how good the players are around him, specifically at offensive line and at wide receiver.
I agree. I think Grunkemeyer will bring some more out of the receivers. I think there was a lot left on the table last year just because the quarterback wasn't capable of getting the ball in the efficient way that they wanted to. But I think the running backs, we'll get to all these groups in a second, but just kind of preview. The running backs, I think, are in a pretty good spot. I kind of like the top receivers. I think the tight ends are better. The question comes down to that offensive line. What was the one thing they could not do last year? It was pass block. We kind of talk about Kyron Drost not being able to get the ball to receivers. Well, how many times was he just under siege? And how many times did he save a sack just by athleticism in the backfield? I don't know if Grunkemeyer is going to be that type of player back there. So they really need to shore up that pass blocking part of this thing for the passing game to take off. I think a lot of quarterbacks can do pretty well if they have a comfortable pocket and can set up there and be comfortable and pitch the ball around. It's a little bit different if they're on you in a fraction of a second. And if that's going to be the case again this year, I'd expect struggles there.
Well, you allude to it, Andy. Let's start talking about the supporting cast that he will have if he hands the ball off to the running back stable, which is another 5-person room. But the big names for Virginia Tech fans as they see the return of Marcellus Hawkins and Jeff Overton, that seemed like a big offseason move that they were able to keep them.
I thought it was huge to retain Marcellus Hawkins, and you know he could potentially have another year after this year because he was injured early in his career and could get a medical red shirt for that. Bill Davis, Nick, you've still got their recruiting weights up there, but yeah, he's actually listed at 248 on Tech's updated roster.
5'9", 248.
Like we.
I don't know if I've ever seen a 5'9". Maybe there have been.
We thought guys like Tootin was thick, right? This guy. 5'9", 248, that's a pretty unheard of build. But I think some of these heights and weights you have to ignore a little bit right now. Because some of them, like Quentin Reddish, lost 31 pounds, which seems like a lot. Some of them shrunk 2 inches. I think some of this is like, hey, you haven't earned the right yet for us to lie about your height and weight on the official roster, right? Because there's plenty of that goes on. But, Jeff Overton, obviously, showed major flashes as a freshman last year. He's still a little bit small. He's bigger than 178 right now, but still a little bit on the smaller side. I think it was smart to bring in Bill Davis because you don't want to overload someone of Overton's size. You want to play him, of course, because he can make huge plays for you. But if you overwork him, a player of that size, it could lead to injuries, and you don't want that to happen. Tyler Mason, if one of those other guys slips up, that's his third year in a program, he'll have a chance. And Messiah Mickens, running back is one of those players where it's a little bit easier maybe to get on the field as a true freshman as long as you can handle the pass blocking aspects of things. So Messiah Mickens he'll have a college ready body. He'll be ready to go. It's just whether he can beat out at least one of the guys in front of him and whether he can pass block.
To kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with Bill Davis here at 5'9", 248. Terrian Stewart was listed at 5'9", 222 last year. Now, he wasn't 5'9". He was not 5'9", even close to that. 222, I think I believe that. But
yeah,
if they're listing Bill Davis at 5'9", he's probably not 5'9".
We should invite him to the podcast. I just want to get eyes on the dude.
Just stand next to him. Stand next to Nick. See how you stand back to back with Nick, and we'll base the height based off that.
If he's actually
6 foot, come on now.
If he's actually 248, he might not fit in that chair on a 5'9" frame because he's got to be wider than he is tall.
It will be interesting. It will be interesting his running style. Overall the room, I thought Hawkins was one of the most underrated players they had last year. It was just, he didn't get in the end zone a lot because Kyron Drones would always take it from the 1 yard line and score touchdowns.
It was like the running back in Varsity Blues.
Yeah, it was like Varsity Blues there. I think if he had just like a regular touchdown share, people would look at his stats a little bit more favorably. As it was, he had a lot of yards, and then he got hurt at the end of the year and then playing that UVA game, so that took away a game of stats there. But there were some games. I mean, the infamous game that Nick put his yards per carry at 7.5. We're like, there's no way this is going to happen, and he gets like 8.5 or whatever it ended up being. There were a lot of games where he was a very impressive runner, tough runner, explosive runner. Getting him back as a top guy, I think that's a very big deal, especially because you look stylistically. Hawkins is kind of a balanced runner there, I think. Davis, I would imagine, a power runner. I would hope if you're 248 that you're a power runner. I would hope Jerome Bettis type or something like that. I look at Overton and possibly Mickens as more sort of breakaway guys that have that home run ability. And I think that's a good mix of talent in that room. And we'll see with Tyler Mason. He hasn't really had a chance to get on the field a whole lot here, but it's not like they go 8 deep or something like that at the running backs. I think they have a solid group, and right now, Hawkins, Davis, Overton, I would imagine the top 3, maybe not in that order, maybe Hawkins, Overton, Davis, however they split up the carries, but I would think it's probably a red shirt for Mickens, just because, if you're not going to use him a lot, you're going to waste a year with it. Then again, it's a running back. How many running backs stick around for 5 years in college?
Yeah, and Andy, you talked about it, a limited amount of touchdowns on the ground for the running backs last year, only 3 in totality, and one of them went to Hawkins, one to Overton. And as we go to the big picture of it, what do you think the balance is going to look like between passing and running the ball this season for James Franklin in his first year at Virginia Tech?
Well, the balance wasn't they ran it a lot last year, the last few years, but a lot of those were quarterback carries.
Yeah.
So you got to take out those quarterback carries, and now those are either going to turn into running back carries or more passing. So I would actually think they'll probably end up throwing the ball more, but the running game is going to be extremely important. Like, I don't think Tech will. I mean, Tech I think they finished top 25 in rushing yards this past year, right? I don't know that they'll finish top 25 in rushing yards, but they'll finish a lot higher in passing yards, and the rushing game will be extremely important in the passing game in this style of offense. This will be kind of a throwback offense. Like, you'll even see, not all the time, but every now and then, you'll see Gronkemeyer lined up under center. We can actually start using that phrase again.
Right, exactly.
Because I've started using behind center because they're always in shotgun, right? But you'll see him in I formation and probably a little, some pistol and things like that. It'll be a lot more traditional.
I think if you look at Ty Howell's history, offensive lineman in college, tight ends coach, clearly likes tight ends. They brought in a lot here. I can imagine them having a lot of 12, 13 personnel that they're going to have on the field at times. Then you listen to the way he talks, and it's like, yeah, we want to have explosive plays. And he said the thing, but you've got to earn your way to do that. And how do you do that? You run the ball, you protect the quarterback, throw off play action, stuff like that. So there's like a toughness that they want to establish in the offense that I think the ground game's got to be a big part of it. And you look at the history of Penn State, Saquon Barkley, all the different running backs that they've had there. I think that would be their preferred style of offense, is to be a hard-nosed, tough offense like that. Then maybe you can open it up and throw it a bit more. But I don't think you're going to go out there and go like 5 wide and just pitch it around. I think the running game's got to be a big part of that.
Well, for Bill Davis and Messiah Mickens, Blacksburg is their new home. But if you want help finding your dream home, let's turn to our sponsor, Tyrus Homes.
Are you ready for a custom home tailored to your distinctive lifestyle? At Tyrus Homes, a leading custom home builder in the New River Valley, we pride ourselves on crafting exceptional residences that our clients love to call home. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a growing family in search for more room, an active adult seeking a relaxing retreat, or looking for a higher-end custom home that offers luxury and sophistication, we have the perfect solution for you. Discover how you can bring your dream home to life at TyrusHomes.com. That's TYRIS Homes.com.
Well, thank you, Tyrus Homes, for sponsoring today's video. And as we continue talking about some skill positions, we're going to up the numbers, as there were 5 in the last few position groups. There's 12 receivers on the Virginia Tech roster that we have listed here on the graphic. And for fans, the big name that's coming back is Aiden Green for another season. But there's a whole lot of new names brought in from the transfer portal or recruiting. So where do you see all these guys fitting in?
I think going out and signing Keyshawn Brown from Duke, that's a big-time signing. You wouldn't know it from his size, but this guy's an extremely productive receiver. Over 90 catches. It might be more than that. I forget how many catches for Duke over the last 2 years. But
career production, 107 catches.
107 catches. Only 2 drops. 1 drop as a freshman, 1 drop as a sophomore. So he's a reliable receiver. And he's not just this slot guy who catches it in space and then makes big plays after that. You'll see him go down the field and make catches in traffic and take hits and things like that, which is very impressive for a guy his size. So he's got a lot of toughness and a lot of durability. So he's your starting slot. Green's going to start on the outside. And I think Marlon Jackson will have a chance to start as well. I don't know, his career stats aren't great, but they had major quarterback issues where he came from. Like, they had 3 different quarterbacks each of the last 2 years, and one year they had more interceptions and touchdowns. So it's hard to put up numbers as a wide receiver when you're in situations like that. And beyond that, like Keelan Adams, Chance Wiggins, are they going to be healthy? Right? Because they were going to play and probably play a lot this past season, but they both missed the season with an injury. Battle for the backup slot position, Tyseer Denmark and Heath, who's going to win that. And then you got some young players down there. Jeff Exener's size intrigues me. He's kind of built like a running back, but as a wide receiver. Shamarius Peterkin obviously showed some flashes. He saved the scoring streak on Virginia Tech's last offensive play of the season, as it turned out. But he's on the bench for the basketball team right now and not in the weight room with football, and he needs to add weight. So
isn't he injured too? Isn't he out? They listed him as out.
He's unavailable.
So
whether that means injury,
yeah.
Amazing. All the freshmen are now are all unavailable for Mike Young now. But whatever. But so I think you've got 2 or 3 proven guys in there, but you've also got a lot of competition behind them.
Yeah, I'm curious who you think the three starters. You think it's Brown, Green, and Jackson?
I think so. Like, if I had to pick three right now, that would be it. Just simply because Keel Adams and Chance Wiggins are coming off injuries. We've basically never seen them play before.
Right. And I mean, you want to talk about another injury factor, Takai Heath.
Yeah.
Battled injuries throughout his career. So if you're looking for durability, maybe those are three of the top that you go. You mentioned Keyshawn Brown, 107 catches, 1,310 yards. I mean, that's more than the next two guys combined catches. That's Aiden Green and Marlon Jackson. So, yeah, I would think that those are probably the guys in line to start. It feels like there is a lot of opportunity for younger guys to step up and seize roles here. And Keelan Adams, Chance Wiggins, this will be their third year in the program. Didn't see them at all last year. Felt kind of like a lost year for both of those guys. Snook Peterkin, I think he showed some things. I will be curious about how these two Penn State transfers coming in, Exner and Denmark. Are they going to need a year to sort of acclimate, or can they step in and compete? And you always hear these receivers coaches say, we want to have 7-8 guys that we can go to. It's like, well, right now I see 4 maybe that you can trust, and then question marks about everybody else. So there's a lot of work they have to do in the receiver room to get up to a respectable number that they can trust putting in the game.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of opportunity, and it's interesting, like you brought up, Chris, like Snook Peterkin after some flashes last year. Could he carve that out? Or like you mentioned, Andy, with Adams and Wiggins trying to get on the field. And so when you pair that with Grunkemeyer being the quarterback, are we going to see Aiden Green or somebody else kind of be the alpha 1A, or do you think it's going to be a good spread around who gets the ball?
I think if you just base it on career production, it's got to be Brown. But then again, Brown had Miami's future quarterback throwing him the football, right? And Aiden Green did not have that luxury. I think Green's a better player than his career numbers would
He's
indicate.
a senior. That's weird to me.
It's strange.
That felt like it went fast.
It has.
And I mean, he's shown promise. You saw how he played in that
It's a bowl game against
the
Minnesota.
Duke Mayo Bowl. He had that play where he hurdled the guy, runs down the field, incredible athleticism. He had a great catch against Miami last year, I believe, where he dragged his toe on the sideline. He's just got to have somebody to deliver the ball to him. So I think with Green and Brown, I think you have a great 1-2 there. I think you got to fill in a lot of things. We didn't mention Davion Brown, the freshman, who was I think one. Yeah, Fat Rat. I'd
How
rather
can we
just
forget?
call him Fat
Actually, we
give
should
him
just
that
take
and
Davey
all.
on there and just it should
Davey,
say
I should be
Fat
Fat Rat. But I think he was one of the highest, if not the highest ranked recruit that they had in this class. Can somebody like that step in and participate right away? We'll see. But I think this is a little bit of a departure from what Fontel Mines has had in the past, where a couple years ago, very veteran group, didn't quite live up to the billing. Again, how much of that is the quarterback, how much of that is the receivers, we'll see. But they have a quarterback that can deliver the ball now. It's time for the receivers to step up a little bit more and produce.
Yeah, and a couple other guys on that list. Cameron Sparks, he's a guy with a good offer list coming out of high school who redshirted. Luke Stewie had a really good camp, when he got his tech offer. He was a guy that they originally thought might play safety, and they got in here and then decided, well,
He did well enough to stick at receiver, or to make them think that he could play receiver.
Right, exactly. But now they've got so many holes at safety, which we'll get into in our next podcast, that you wonder if they might give him a look there this spring. I don't know. There's a lot to be decided. And
it's not like they're flush at receiver numbers, though.
Correct.
So all of a sudden, both spots are positions of need.
Yep.
So we just talked about the receivers. Let's pair it with the tight end room, which is interesting because there's a lot of returning names in Benji Gosnell, Harrison St. Germain, Jerikas Hairston, but they also go out and they bring a lot of recruits of transfer portal in as well. And in the past, this past season didn't see the tight end involved a ton in the offense. Do you think that changes, and how deep is this room?
Oh, it'll absolutely change. We saw Penn State involves the tight end a lot. They routinely play 3 tight ends, and they'll throw it to all 3 of them. So, obviously Luke Reynolds is going to come in, and he's most likely going to take the first snap as a first tight end. But you could really have 2 starting tight ends if they do a lot of tight end formations. And, Benji Gosnell is a veteran, a proven pass catcher. He didn't get as many chances this past year because of the nature of the offense he played in.
Do you know how many he had off the top of your head?
8.
12 catches.
12.
That's what he had 2 years ago. or 3 years ago, I should say. It just wasn't an offense that was conducive to throwing to the tight end, which is weird because I think Gosnell had pretty good talent there. You saw he made that catch against, I think it was NC State, where he kind of went up over the guy, 50-50 ball, and he mossed him with the catch there for a big first down. I think that, and then you add the other guys, I think it could be a talented room. But I cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think the main thing you've got to see is improvement is blocking. Tech's tight ends group has not been great blockers. So I think Gosnell and Luke Reynolds are your top two there, and the third guy will be decided by probably who's the best blocker, in my opinion. Because if you're playing three tight ends, somebody's got to be able to block, right? And Penn State fans say Luke Reynolds can't block, but I don't know about that. But from what I could tell, from what I saw, he's a major improvement in terms of blocking. Henderson is intriguing. He's from Virginia. From the Richmond area. He played a lot of wide receiver in high school. He was an extremely prolific receiver in high school. I think 1 year he caught over 70 passes. So this is a guy who's used to having the football in his hands, and he's put on some good weight in the offseason. Peterson, similar type prospect, except he played quarterback in high school. But Virginia Tech is going to have 5 guys ahead of him, and he needs to add weight, so he will most likely be a redshirt this year.
I'm curious. Do you think everybody will adopt the Reynolds and Henderson hairstyle?
Oh my God!
I want to see Jarikas get the mullet on the back. And Benji's got to grow it out too, and
so
everybody got the same look.
When you look at a picture of Luke Reynolds and Matt Henderson, it's like that the Spider-Man picture where they're both doing that to each other. God, they're spitting images, but
it's an interesting room this year because they didn't really add to it in the past.
Right.
It was they had their guys. They were just kind of rolling with them.
They go 2 straight years without signing a tight end.
I think Zeke Wimbush was the last one that they signed
out of high school until Peterson.
And Jarikas obviously came in not as a scholarship guy. Now he's a scholarship guy. Developed there. I kind of trust this staff with developing tight ends.
Same.
You look at their history at Penn State. I mean, Penn State was a tight end factory.
Right.
You go back to Freiermuth. I think they have 4 draft picks there, all in the first 4 rounds. Tyler Warren, Mackey Award winner, first round pick. Former Hokies commit way back in the day. He was one of the first ones, I think, from Centerville.
I forget.
Is that where he was from?
It might be. I know he was a high school quarterback.
He was like a high school quarterback and punter. And I think at the time, everybody's like, why are you taking this guy? His stats are terrible. And they're like, he's just an incredible athlete. Like, we'll figure it out once he gets here. And obviously never got here, went to Penn State.
Figured it out.
Penn State, and they go, this guy's an incredible athlete. He's going to be a Wildcat quarterback. He's going to do all this other stuff. Ty Howell coached tight ends and did for the last 5 years at Penn State. David Rocco has been his number one guy as his assistant on that staff. They're both here now. Ty Howell's running the offense and coaching tight ends, so I imagine it's going to be a big part. David Rocco's right there helping him out. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And like I said, I think you'll see a lot of formations that will have 2 or possibly 3 tight ends on the field. I think that's how you establish toughness. That's how you run the ball and, just kind of line up and say, hey, we're going to run it on this. We're not going to try to fool you on this. We're just going to run it and we're going to just try to overpower you. Now, do they have the personnel to do that? We'll see. But I think that's going to be their mindset. I think you will see a lot more of the tight ends this year than you have in the past.
Yeah, in the passing game for sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Andy. And I think the big thing to point out about Penn State is I don't think they've taken any transfer tight ends at Penn State. They just recruited them all from the high school level, recruited well, and then developed them. And, that's the system they ultimately want to get to at Virginia Tech. Obviously, they took a couple of transfers this year, but they were Penn State guys.
Riley Peterson, Dodge Center, Minnesota, coming from our area up there. Where is that exactly? Is that down by Rochester?
Believe so.
Okay.
There. Yeah, flipped him from Minnesota though, as well. Almost was a Golden Gopher.
Cobras.
The Cobras.
A lot of Cobras up in Minnesota. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Tons of them up in that state.
One thing I think about Minnesota, I think of is snakes. That's what we get lots of.
First thing on the mind. Well, as you guys talked about, that's a deep room at the tight end spot, likely to see some more involvement. But also, as Chris, you started talking about blocking, let's talk about the offensive line. There are so many that it doesn't fit on one graphic. There are 21 players currently listed on the roster there on the offensive line. And so there's 2 main areas here is you care about who's who starts, but also as we saw last year, when injuries can occur, you want that depth on the offensive line as well.
Yeah, you absolutely do. I think I've been an advocate for a few years now of trying to recruit a couple of extra offensive linemen per year than you would normally do, because I think they're extremely difficult to evaluate. And if you take an extra guy or two every year over the course of 4 years, that's just extra bodies to choose from. You're going to get a lot of your evaluation wrong with offensive linemen. So if you take more of them, your chances increase of putting a starting competent 5 and maybe even having a little bit of depth, right? So I like the fact that Tech has 21 players right now. Now, there's going to be turnover, of course, when you have that many guys. But, I think you increase the competition level.
They can practice. It felt like last year there were times they couldn't even put a 5-on-5 and do practice.
Remember when they briefly moved Christian Evans to offensive line and he was in the 2 deep?
He
was a true freshman defensive tackle.
I think he wore a jersey number that was over with the offensive line for one of the games.
Like NC State or something.
Yeah, we
like that.
point that out, and then the next week he's like, yeah, he's back at defensive line. It's like, well,
because we just literally didn't have enough players, right? I think Logan Howland coming in from Oklahoma, he'll play left tackle, and that's where he played at Oklahoma. I think Johnny Garrett, he's best suited to the right side. He's played his best football on the right side by far. He struggled on the left side this past year. So I think Howland comes in, takes the left spot over. He's had some injury issues at Oklahoma, but when he's been healthy, he's been a solid player, will be a massive upgrade from a pass blocking standpoint. So you improve at left tackle, so you're already better there. You move Garrett back to right tackle. You get him in a competition with Aiden Lynch, who had to start there last year before he was ready. And I think you've improved your tackle spots.
Well, you actually have designated positions.
Right.
It's not, oh no, somebody got hurt. Tomas Remak
So let's
to
move
the
from
rescue.
right guard to left tackle.
I mean,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
The answer last year was, oh, Tomas can play it.
Play everywhere.
It's like first of all, that's unfair to the player, and second of all, it's tough to do.
Yeah.
It's tough to do it well, and I think that was reflected in his stats. Now you look at it, you go, Garrett, Howland, Aiden Lynch, Justin Terry, I think also
Justin
a tackle.
Terry, in my opinion, will start games for Virginia Tech before the season's over.
If we're saying those are your 4 tackles going into the season, I feel like you're already in a much better situation than you were last year. Garrett at left tackle. Who got hurt at right tackle that Aiden Lynch stepped up? I'm blanking on.
Everybody got hurt.
I know. But, was it Montavious that they were going to have out there originally?
I think they were going to put him at guard.
Okay.
Because he was tackle at Georgia State. But then they tried to play him at guard, but he got hurt.
Remak
got hurt.
Yeah, Remak was going to play right tackle.
I think so.
I think.
Basically,
Brody Meadows maybe in that mix.
Basically, they were
Meadows
probably down
more of a guard, I think.
They were probably down to like their 4th option at offensive right tackle by the end of the year.
It was the perfect storm of injuries on the offensive. The one spot that you couldn't get injuries on last year's team. Now, though, I think you could put those 4 guys at tackle and just kind of have them battle it out. May the best guy step forward, and you're not adjusting to try to get your best 5 on the field. You can actually have some just, position specificity that you can get to.
Exactly. And a guy like Justin Terry, he was in the 2 deep at Ohio State last year. Now, he didn't play a lot, but he played some and was in their 2 deep for Tyler Bowen up there.
Tyler Bowen system up there. Knows exactly.
It's hard to get in the 2 deep at Ohio State. And the reason he transferred is because every other offensive tackle was young. So it's like he's a good player, but it's just he's around a bunch of other good players too, and they're all the same age. So I think he's a good addition. And he's a guy who spent his first year with Matt Moore at West Virginia, and then they had a coaching change there, so he left and ended up at Ohio State rather than Virginia Tech. But there will be plenty of familiarity there with him and his position coach. And again, my prediction is he'll start games for Virginia Tech by the end of the year.
Yeah, and then you get to the interior. You have to feel good about Altuner coming back at center.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you start a guy at true freshman at center as a true freshman, is so that you can get him as a sophomore, junior, senior, and he's got that experience. You kind of suffer the growing pains of that first season to pay off down the line. And then you fill in at guard, I think. I don't know if there are any obvious answers at guard. Ganem, Meadows, Montavious Cunningham. If he gets another year, I assume he's gotten another year.
Yeah.
I think you look at his case; it's pretty straightforward.
It's a medical issue.
Yeah, he got injured.
Oh, I was in JUCO, and do I have an 8th year of eligibility? Right. This is
got a 9th year. Did you see
I saw
that?
that today from Montana.
Get a job,
He's
man.
a regular
Come
Van
on,
Wilder.
get a job. 9 years. He's like Jeremy Piven in PCU. Remember that movie from the 90s? Great movie.
Oh, man.
Nick and Riley are way too young for that. You should watch it. It holds up. It might be even more relevant today than it was back then. But 9 years in college. Come on. But Montavious is, I think he'd be a 6th-year senior at that point, which is a little more reasonable.
That's definitely more reasonable.
But yeah, him and Meadows and Ganem, I would imagine your top options at the guard spots. Who else would be in there?
Ricard played over 100 snaps this past year. So is he
Lucas
a backup
Austin,
guard or is he a backup center?
Is Austin a guard or a tackle?
He's a tackle.
Okay.
So we'll see. And he came from West Virginia. The big question to me is, like, how healthy is Brody Meadows? Because he missed last season with an injury, and his injury dated all the way back to the spring. So is he ready to roll? Obviously, he adds great size and plenty of experience because he played a lot as a redshirt freshman and a redshirt sophomore. He's a guy who, listed as a redshirt senior, but he would get a medical for last year and would be eligible to return in 2027 as well. So that's a competition for 2 starting spots. Can you go to the next page, Nick? I want to see if there's anybody else because there's so many players. Gavin Crawford.
Crawford played a little bit last year.
He played in 2 games, and I think he had over 70 snaps in both of those games. But then I think they were like, okay, well, let's go ahead and redshirt him. So he would be an option too. Is he really only listed at 6 feet now?
His nickname on Instagram is Pulling Guard.
Pulling guard. Interesting. Okay. So
They're giving away trade secrets. So what are they going to do with him?
With his height, he might be better suited to pulling center. We'll see. But Eziuka is a guy I want to talk about. If there's a true freshman offensive lineman on there, I think he's very well built for his age. Interior lineman. Speaking of pulling linemen, that guy is a dynamic puller. Won a state title in Michigan. I think he could come in and play right away. He's a guy who, again, he might be a center. I don't think you wouldn't want, ideally, to stick another freshman center in there 2 years in a row. But at some point, I could see him. I could see him staying at guard with Altuner staying at center. I could even see like Altuner moving to guard at some point in his career with Eziuka becoming the center. But I would not count him out because I think he's got the build for it and the pedigree.
I don't know, Chris. My philosophy, and I don't know if you follow this, is it's always be redshirt.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that. Yeah.
Is that something that you espouse?
I can probably be talked into that, Andy.
I mean, I like all the freshmen that they brought in, a lot of beef in that group. I think you got to redshirt them. I think that's long-term health of the program, and I think that's how James Franklin looks at stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not forced to play a true freshman offensive lineman, then why do it?
If you disagree with my philosophy of always be redshirting, then you also disagree with James Franklin because that guy was a redshirt machine at Penn State.
I think I look at these guys and if this was the freshman class last year on last year's line, I think I think 3 or 4 of those guys would play. You got to look at those guys. They got to play. I think now when you got the 4 games to play with. You have a bunch of veteran options that can, battle each other if they're healthy. Now you get a couple injuries, and then who knows with that thing. But I think with the 4 games you can play around with, it'd almost be malpractice to force some of these freshmen into playing this year. So I would imagine all.
Is it 4 games? Have they passed some new rule?
No, the coach just voted.
Oh, they're talking about the new.
They're always talking about something stupid. They're like, "Oh, let's move signing day to Christmas Day." Like, what's wrong with you? Can you put in a more inconvenient time for everybody? Like, every single person is inconvenienced by when they put signing day. Yeah. That's another topic, though. But I would think that these guys are going to redshirt this year. That would be my thought. If you have 4 games to play around with, think about it. You can play the way they do it now. You get 4 games. That doesn't count ACC championship if you get there. It doesn't count a bowl game. Doesn't count any of the playoff games. I mean, some of these guys could play if you're a really good team, you could play 9 games.
Right.
Still redshirt on the season. So I think they'd be wise to use the 4 games to the max with these guys. Get another year out of them down the line because that's really where you see the value with these players.
You're going to see a couple of those guys against VMI.
and now I think in the past it'd be like, oh, I want to play now. But if you're a player and you're like, I can redshirt, I'm still pulling in a lot of money this year, and I get another year on the back end of my career.
I can maximize my earnings as a redshirt senior.
I think in the past there'd be maybe a little bit of resistance to redshirting, but now it's like, hey, redshirting is not this bad thing because I have another year of greater earning potential at the end of my career than I do at the beginning.
Well, it appears as though they'll have plenty of options on the offensive line in terms of numbers. So that's a look at all the position rooms on the offensive side of the ball. As mentioned, our next podcast, we'll be talking about the defense, and the next time we'll see these guys in action out in Lane Stadium is the spring game on Saturday, April 18th. And as a reminder, that game is free to the public to attend, so you can witness that. We are nearing 10,000 followers on Instagram. Nick, we're within 200 away of getting there, as you said. So if you haven't already, go over to Instagram and follow Tech Sideline there. But is there anything else coming up at techsideline.com we can keep an eye out for?
Having a Brandon Patterson article today about Chuck Losey, the new strength and conditioning coach. The mustache man himself. Nick, sorry you don't have that title anymore. I would like to see you try to copy that, though.
I think we need to get him on the show, and that he needs to like style up Nick's mustache to be the same way. Like whatever you need to do to be ready for that. They put a little bit of the Raleigh Fingers cream on it, or however.
I wonder how much time he spends on that in the morning.
I mean, it's well refined.
It is.
So yeah, let's bring back the look. It's been too long since Raleigh Fingers was in the mainstream. I think it's a great look. People should do it.
If you can pull it off, you should absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Anything for you on TechSideline.com?
Working on it. We'll see.
All right. And Nick, from an audio-video perspective, what do we have?
We just had a talk with Teal yesterday. We'll have the Friday Q&A on Friday, and then, like you alluded to, tomorrow we will have the defensive position groups, and shout out our interns for slaving away on those graphics and making them, because that's a lot of names to type out, especially on the offensive line.
I'm glad you did them, too, because with so many new coaches and so many new players, I will freely admit to not memorizing all these names yet.
Well, I was sitting here looking at your position previews as we were doing this, and you got them all listed there. So that was a nice reference. Yeah. People should go back and read all of those.
Yeah, and if you're interested in Tech basketball coverage as well, there's a Tech Sideline basketball show in which Chris is on also that has all the up-to-date stuff with the Hokies on that front. So thank you for watching episode 469 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and refer the show to a friend if you haven't already. For Chris Coleman, Andy Vitter, and Nick Brown behind the scenes, I'm Riley Klaus saying so long for now.